Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are across this great wide world of ours. I'm doing a video again on this extension on the Bureau of Indian Affairs from this timeout. I'm going to call it the BIA, and I have three key points that I think the Bureau of Indian Affairs or the BIA should be changed. And I'm going to discuss each one of them. There are three key points. The first one is if you change the name of it, you'll remove the historical drama, and also you'll wipe the slate clean, as the cliche is, about anything in the past. So what happens with that is just, and we'll go deeper into this, is just wipe it clean and anything in the back, and you come up with a new name. Then you move forward. The other one is you if you streamline the regional offices down to 4, close the headquarters, then you can be able to have more of those funds go to the individual tribes, like the Navajo, the Cherokee, etc. And thirdly, the other one is you empower the tribal leaders to be responsible, and not necessarily, not saying they're not responsible, but you're giving the authority to the tribal leaders and not necessarily to the federal government. So when we look into this, the first one, removing historical drama, what you try to do is you're wiping the slate clean. In other words, what you're trying to do is say the Bureau of Indian Affairs no longer exists, because when it was created on the premise of forcing Native Americans onto reservations and dictating their sovereignty over to the federal government. In other words, they weren't in charge of, or they weren't empowered by themselves, but they were empowered by the federal government. A good case in point of this, if you watch certain parts of even though it's an old movie and some of it, the depiction of Native Americans is not accurate, but the premise of the movie McClintock, which is shot in 1963, illustrates the point. That one thing that I found in point is when McClintock, played by John Wayne, has a hearing, and he speaks for the Comanche, and that his point is that they should be in charge of their own sovereign nation, and they should be in charge. So that's the key aspect. But there's I forget the guy's name, but he's got glasses and kind of short. He was supposed to represent the Bureau of Indian Affairs, that he's in charge of the Comanche. They're in the new territory. So in essence, this is an administrative position, and and he says they're supposed to report to him. And the thing that sticks out to me about that is when he says they were supposed to report to him, you actually take that an empowerment from them, and we'll discuss it in a few minutes. But you remove that historical drama when you get rid of the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and then call it something else other than Indian Affairs. Because, like I said, there's too much historical drama, like the Indian Removal Act of the 1830s, the Dawes Act in those cases, both of those, and then the plight of or the destruction of the bison in the early 19th, 20th century, which was a ceremonial as well as a food source for many of the Indians in the plains and out west. Secondly, is if you move the offices, or take the offices, and instead of having 12 regional offices dictated down to 4, close the main office in Washington, D.C., and then move things in a central location like Austin, Texas, Oklahoma City, example, somewhere move it more to the central part of the United States, this will have an impact on people and on on the issues. And like I said, I'm not an expert on this, but I consider myself somewhat because I do know a lot of reading on this and a lot of research. And there's this thing about when you have that much of administrative cost, you're not getting the needs really down to the people that really need. In other words, granted, yeah, they're getting the needs, but if you cut those costs or the administrative cost in half, just think how much you'll be able to help the tribes in that location. So in other words, what you're doing here is you're moving the issue from I just Eliza, I saw this glow on there. You're adjusting the issue necessarily more to the helping of the Native Americans and not necessarily helping the administrative aspect of it. Like anything, you get the federal government involved with it, you're going to have more tie-ins. And tie-ins, what I mean is you're going to just have more administrative and things taking longer to take. This way, if you do it this way, you're actually turning the power or the authority over. When you streamline, you really take that power and turn it over to the regional office. And then what I suggest is 4 regional offices, one in the northeast, southeast, southwest, and then like the upper plains, which would cover like Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, that area up through there. So in other words, instead of having 12 regional offices, you would have 4. So in other words, you can cut this out. You can cut your administrative cost and still have that effect. Now, granted, some people will say, well, you're going to create more bureaucracy, because these things won't happen faster, but they really don't happen much faster now with the 12 regional offices plus the headquarters. So if you create 4 regional offices in a headquarters, you're creating a more of an efficient. And then part of this is my background in IO psychology, and additionally, going back to the first point, the historical drama, because of the fact that it behooves me that that the Bureau of Indian Affairs and a lot of organizations have got Indian out of their name, and yet the federal government still has Indian in the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And thirdly and lastly, with the 4 regional offices, moving the headquarters somewhere else, cutting your cost, and you're taking those additional costs. What you're really doing is you're taking those and you're piling the tribal leaders. If you ever call, for example, the regional office, and you asked about so-and-so or whatever tribe, they'll say, well, that's up to that tribal leader. So what you're really doing is you're getting rid of that middle person, because really technically it all depends on the tribal council or the tribal leader, say like the Comanche or Navajo. So really you're really taking that emphasis away from the federal government, and you're putting that authority or that decision making within the tribes themselves. Granted, they'll have to justify their cost and justify their reactions to the regional office. But on the other hand, you don't have a federal government breathing down their back, as the cliche would say, dictating to them as to what they need to do and whatever. And like I said, there's always, like I said, when I look at that movie, when McClintock, that was established in 1963, and then John Wayne, when that guy from the Bureau says, you report to me or whatever, and the chief looks at him and says, yeah, or says some kind of comment, and they walk away. And he was confused as to why they walked away, and the point was they didn't trust the white government And the issue becomes necessarily that, the issue becomes that you're taking that away and you're really giving that power over to the chiefs who know really honestly what the tribes need and what they're in need of. They know what their reservation needs and not necessarily the federal government. And if you dictate those costs to the regional office will have a better have a pulse on it, rather a headquarters 2,000 miles away in Washington, D.C. So that's my premise for on this. Continue this. It's an election year. And we'll continue it next year. Maybe take a different spin on it if need be after the election. But this is something that I really honestly feel very hardly that needs to be done. Especially, we get into issues on water, especially in the American Southwest. We have on water quality and water reservation and who has water rights, etc. Anyway, feel free to reach out to me concerning these issues at B. Thomas Miller Psych. That's B. Thomas Miller Psych at gmail.com. You can also look at my books that are self-published on Amazon. That they are the last one that I published. I am working on another one, but it's on abundance. It's more of a psychology book, though I am going to work one on the interior department. But the books are available on Amazon. And anyway, folks, have a great day, and we'll talk to you real soon. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.